Y'all be looking for some symbolism in every word when I just want to come and flex when I splurge, so I be leaving people pressed when I surge. It's always personal when the music involved. When you say it's inadvertent, I don't believe you at all. I believe it is my calling for moments of introspection. More than a couple bangers, some features, a tight selection. Looking to pass you up if you ain't a part of our section. So don't you comment when we get to flexing. You had your chance. I know you see what we doing, you know you had to glance. We getting closer to greatness, you know I had to dance. How could I not with my hands are stirring the pot? Thinking then of the plot is enticing, you see it through my lens. I'm thinking about the beginning, how much I really knew. It really puts in perspective how much we really grew. It only takes us a second to make a million moves. Why don't you give us a year and see how we really do? Yeah. Public reminder number 700. Yellow Starburst is the best one. It's lemon. People don't like lemon candies. I think that's the problem, except lemon heads. Lemon heads are good. I like lemon heads. I'm just feeling time now. Yeah. I created different lanes y'all can never win in. Going through some situations y'all had never been in. I know that my greatest hit is something I ain't mentioned. Addicted to the game, I'ma need an intervention. When it comes to music, I ain't never gonna be finished till I'm 6 feet deep, like a COVID social distance. At least to know me as the man who always went the distance, but kept a mask on so they don't notice my intentions. You could call me Bag Chaser, it's a simple title, but it encapsulates one of the things I feel is vital. So if I stay true to the name, I'm gonna be an idol. And if I stay true to the game, I'm gonna be my rivals. Don't call it cocky, it's just confidence. Better yet, it's common sense. See my peak and I believe that I could reach the top of it. Manifesting what I dream about is all I really do, so I could go reflect about what's next when I'm in interviews.
Hello, I am Gail Christopher, Executive Director of the National Collaborative for Health Equity. On behalf of the Collaborative and many other organizations in this country, I am inviting you to join us in celebrating the 6th Annual National Day of Racial Healing on January 18th, 2022. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years that we've been commemorating and acknowledging this very important day. It follows the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Every year, it follows that celebration. It's a day that we set aside to stand up for the belief that our country can actually eliminate and overcome the harms of racism. Yes, we believe that we can, and in fact, we must eliminate racism. And that's what the National Day of Racial Healing is all about. It's a time for communities to come together and embrace and honor the humanity of all people. It's a time to be truthful about this legacy that our country carries, a legacy that dates back to our inception as a nation. But it's a time to envision a future in which we have actually addressed racism. We've actually, and I'll say it, I'm a Star Trek fan, we've actually eliminated and jettisoned this false ideology, this false notion of a hierarchy and a taxonomy of the human family. Now, we've made a lot of progress in this country over the centuries and over the decades, but not enough. And the COVID-19 pandemic and the flurry of killings of people of color by police officers and the public protests calling for justice, they've combined to culminate in what the media has dubbed a moment of racial reckoning. But if that reckoning is to actualize into justice and fairness, it's gonna take all of us. It's gonna take all of us committing to the hard work of transforming the culture, the policies, the practices, the narrative, the relationships, of transforming our country into one that has the potential, the possibility of actualizing our founding tenets that we're all created equal. And so the National Day of Racial Healing is set aside as a day to energize that commitment and to engage hundreds of thousands and millions of people in standing up for this work. It's part of the process we call truth, racial healing, and transformation. Now, our nation has never implemented a comprehensive nationwide truth and reconciliation process, as many other countries, over 40, have done. But we don't say reconciliation, we say transformation. And there's a very specific strategy at play there. One is the fact that after the Civil War, the South and the North in some ways did reconcile their differences, but they did so without eliminating permission to continue racist policies and racist behaviors and racist practices. The reconciliation was a reconciliation of the South and the North of the states, but it was not an eradication of the cause, the permission to enslave. So we haven't done that work as a country. In fact, a false narrative was propagandized and perpetuated for many, many decades, all the way through the 20th century, and now it's experiencing a resurgence in the 21st century, a false narrative of a hierarchy of human value that's rooted in our antiquated history of 200 years, more than 2 centuries actually, of enslavement and the decimation of indigenous people. So we have work to do as a country, but our future and the viability of our democracy requires that we actually do this work. So the National Day of Racial Healing, again, January 18th, 2022, is a day that we set aside to recommit to achieving these outcomes and to doing this work.
We want to welcome everyone to the National Day of Racial Healing. And we are so excited to have each of you join us for our annual event. This is an amazing event, and we have folks from across our community and across the region that have joined us tonight for an amazing experience. This is not just an event, this is an experience. Have a wonderful agenda plan for each of you on tonight. And I'd like to welcome Angela Waters-Austin, CEO of One Love Global, to begin to kick us off for the events for tonight. Angela?
Thank you, Mordecai, and welcome to you, everyone who is here with us inside of Zoom, and to those of you who are with us on Facebook. I have a horrible signal, I have a cough, and what I didn't count on was an emotional reaction to seeing so many of the people who have been with us for the past 6 years. As you may have heard from our oracle, our mentor, our trainer, Dr. Gail Christopher, this is our 6th anniversary. This is our 6th celebration of the National Day of Racial Healing. And I am so encouraged to see so many familiar faces and names, and also new names and faces. And I'm so encouraged about what we can accomplish together as a community, what we've already accomplished, and there's so much more. Tonight, we celebrate our healers, homegrown in our own community, our community leaders who hold down the work of transformation, our partners, our families, our supporters. And for us, National Day of Racial Healing is not just about one day. It's about every day. It's about our deep personal and community commitments to celebrating healing and acknowledging that we actually do need to heal, that we still have work to do. and that we can actually build a beloved community together. This week, we celebrate the legacy of a remarkable human being, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he has inspired us to embrace an entire week of lifting up radical love. What does it look like for our community to simply declare that we will love our children, our neighbors, ourselves, and people who we haven't yet embraced as friends? To come together and to declare that we will take a stand on the issues that impact the most vulnerable in our communities, that we will commit ourselves to dismantling the racial hierarchy that Dr. Gail Christopher just described, that honestly exists in every community in the United States. We are here to lift up our commitment as One Love Global and a collective community. And our primary goal for this year is to ensure that no child dies from gun violence. It's a preventable problem, and we will do the work that's necessary. We will demonstrate the radical love that is necessary to support our families, our communities, and to support our leaders in making the tough decisions and having the courageous conversations that are absolutely necessary for transformation. Thank you so much, Mordecai, for introducing me. And I'd like to welcome someone who you may have already met and know in the community, but welcome Lillian Brooks to the One Love Global family, who has been leading and supporting and learning with our Racial Healing Circle group, and is stepping into an area of leadership that we are so grateful for, and for organizing the amazing team who planned this, the planning team. Can we just give them a shout out right now? Mordecai, I think we're ready to welcome Jean Paul and Kathy for our land agreement.
Yeah, so Kathy, we're going to pass it over to you.
Kathy Yates, Indigenous, Lansing, Indonjaba, Detroit, Nigi Daughters. We collectively acknowledge that we occupy the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacy of the Ojibwa, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi Indigenous peoples. We recognize, support, and advocate for the sovereignty of Michigan's 12 federally recognized tribes, for the historically Indigenous communities in Michigan, for Indigenous individuals and communities who live here now, and for those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. We also recognize the enslaved Africans who were subjected to forced free labor to build white wealth, and the dehumanization and harm inflicted upon people of color throughout our nation's history. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal of people from their homelands, and we honor and respect the many diverse Indigenous peoples, Black people, and people of color still connected to the land where we gather. This acknowledgement does recognize the fullness of the loss of Indigenous people, Black people, and people of color experienced on this land. This acknowledgement and recognition is important as we move into the sacred circle process, rooted in the practices of Aboriginal and Indigenous people, and ground ourselves in the truth of our history as part of healing. Miigwech. Jean Paul?
Bonjour, John Paul Chalykoff, Indigenous Cause, Wawan Donjaba, Midashki on Dadizian, Uede, Mitchpugadong is Nakade, Ishkonaganning when Jabayan, Pay Shaw Lansing and Danongum, Opportunity Gwetchwenda Mayayan and Wanongum. Hello, my name is John Paul Chalykoff. I'm Ojibwe from Michipican First Nation up on the northern Ontario in Canada along the northeastern shore of Lake Superior. Racial healing gijagata. So I wanted to opportunity to say thank you everyone for coming here to the Racial Healing Day in the Anishinaabe and get to go get you pitan dog with Jijichigayang Kinoya Gina Wind. So I wanted this is such important work that everybody's doing, and I want to emphasize in Anishinaabe, and we have two ways to use we. There's the we exclusive and the we inclusive. When we're talking about what we're doing and you're not there, we use the we exclusive. But with the work that needs to be done here, I want to emphasize that we're using the we inclusive, that we all need to do the work together kind of thing there. So, namin waindan, wamandaman manda oma nakwejong. I'm really happy to see this happening here in the Lansing area. And I'm still like a recent guest myself on my third year in the area, but I feel good seeing this happening. Get to go, get your pitan dog with Jichigayang. Ambe no Jamada Gina Win. So again, I just want to emphasize how important this work is that we all do together, and let's all heal together, all of us. Now, miigwech bezendao meet you. So thank you for listening, and that's it. Miigwech.
Thank you, John Paul, and thank you, Kathy, for our land acknowledgement. And as we move forward, our youth, our Peace and Prosperity Youth Movement, they put together a short video that they would like for you all to see in response to many things that are happening in the community. And so we want to play that video for you. And then after that, we will be led by Karrington in a healing grounding.
All right, cool. Well, I'm happy all of you are here. I'm just here to just do a quick healing exercise. Right now, we're just gonna take a deep breath in collectively. Breath in, loud sigh out. And from there, we're gonna jump into this healing exercise. All right, so I'm just gonna actually do a couple of things, simply just a couple of movement things that we can do together. So let's start with our hands in prayer position. Let's rub them together, create that friction. And then let's lay those hands on our body, wherever you want. It could be on your arm, the back of your neck, it could be on your forehead, and you feel that warm and that connection, right? Let's take one more deep breath in. Rub together. Let's feel that heat. Let's lay our hands into ourselves, and then let's pray intention into ourselves. You can connect to your God, whoever you believe in. For me, I talk to my ancestors when I do healing work. And we're going to place that intention of love, peace, understanding onto ourselves as we pray. All right. Lay your hands onto yourself. Take a deep breath in. Loud sigh out. Ha. So from here, we're going to go to a saying that I love. I actually got this from one of our professors at LCC. Her name was Jan DeWitt. She taught me about some gerontology and connections in rhythm and time. So she had this saying that I thought about a lot, was to accept, reject, or suspend one's own judgment. As we have these conversations and talk about this radical healing space, this racial healing space, we're going to have to accept, reject, or suspend our own judgment, right? And we break these down into 3 different places because we need to understand that we are in a place of understanding and growth consistently. So when we accept our own judgment, we accept that there may be a flaw in our past judgment. There may be something that we didn't hear. There may be a connection that we are missing. There may be a word that just didn't connect directly to us. So we didn't understand the full plight of what we're listening to. And we have to understand how we internalize and process things. So we accept our judgment. We accept how we feel about things. And we see them as truths. There's nothing wrong with changing that. There's nothing wrong with accepting new information. Right? So we're going to accept our judgment, step 1. Step 2 is to reject our own judgment. And when we think about rejecting, it means taking something out, putting something away, dispelling it. But in this case, it means a little something more than just that. When we reject our own judgment, we change based on new information. We accept things as truths that can help us grow. We can question how we came to these conclusions, how we feel. Maybe if there may be a flaw or 1 or 2 things that we may have heard, or we may not be in a space to accept new ideas. And we can reject the idea of stagnance. We can reject what it is to not grow. We can reject our own judgment and say that these things may not be true right now, or there may be more to the story that we need to understand. And when we go to suspension or suspending our own judgment, it is simply to take a step back like rejecting, but let's think of it in a different light. All right, so to suspend our own judgment, that means that we place it in a space for where we have easy access to it, and it can come back when we feel like we need it to understand how we are saying, to understand how we process, to understand how we internalize. And also suspension has 1 major step that rejection doesn't, which is accountability. So to be held accountable, you have to be wanting to be in accountability. You have to want to be there. You have to be honest with yourself and how you're feeling. And we can also question the things that are holding us back from growth, that is holding us back from understanding and satiating the issues that we see here. And not satiation, I guess I used the wrong word. I guess permeating, growing, the things that we see growing consistently, right? Whether we may see character flaws, whether we may see a character flaw in another person that we want them to grow in, right? But right now may not be the word to say it. We may not have the right word. We might not have the right phrase. And we usually feel that within ourselves. And to suspend our own judgment means to think objectively about where we are, okay? Where we are and how we are choosing to be held accountable. Because to be held accountable means that you want to be in this space and you are holding yourself to a higher standard. And what does that look like for you? All right, and with that being said, I'm gonna go back to the prayers, the hands, warming it up. You can participate in this if you choose to. Go to that place for strength, peace, love, joy. For me, I say it's my ancestors. It may be God, it may be Allah, Yada, Yeba, whoever. It may be Aborigines. When we go to those places for guidance and healing. And we're going to do this to pray intention into ourselves as we go into these conversations. And we are going to accept, reject, or suspend our own judgment because we're in a place where we need to grow. All right, place those hands on your body. Take a deep breath in, loud sigh out. 1 for peace. Deep breath in, loud sigh out. 1 for joy. Last breath in, loud sigh out. And the last one is for connection. That's what we're here to get connected. Thank you for your time. Stay beautiful, people. Remember to accept, reject or suspend your own judgment as you have these conversations. All right.
Ashe.
That, I'm going to pass it to our gracious CEO, our amazing CEO, Angela Waters Austin. Stay beautiful, y'all.
Thank you, Karrington. Amen. Ashe. Amen. It be. Dr. Gail Christopher provided us an amazing video today that explained what the TRHT process is. And for those of you who have been involved for 6 years, you know that so much of the process is what we make it. So I'll just describe the framework. 5 parts. It's about narrative change. Narrative happens in ways that never happened when I was growing up. Social media didn't exist. If I'm honest, email didn't exist. I thought I was cool to have a pager. Narrative comes in from the time that we can take in the outside world. It's on our television, it's on the big movie screen, and now it's on all of our small screens and devices. And we're constantly consuming information, and not all of it is true. And it shapes what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about other people, what we believe about the United States, what we believe about the rest of the world. And so I'm so grateful for that grounding, and that this is heart work. It's not just head work. We can do policy analysis. We're really great at data, but ultimately, how do we actually get at the heart of the belief that there are people who are less than human, who are less deserving? And through that process of dehumanizing and detaching ourselves from the truth that we are all connected, we actually cause harm to ourselves, and we're so much more likely to cause harm to others and in the world. So that narrative change is such an important pillar of the framework, and it really drives everything else. It drives the relationships that we have, because we actually have to be in relationship and communication for change to happen. Those relationships are not always friendships, but they actually are so important, because communication, understanding that what Karrington just described, the willingness and the commitment to suspend and reject our own beliefs, to be willing to take into new information about ourselves and about other people, is really what's at the heart of the work. And tonight we're going to share with you the experience of a racial healing circle and what it means to do that heart work that is so absolutely necessary for us to actually restore ourselves, to replenish ourselves, and in some cases to soften our hearts, so that we can actually come together and to do the deep transformative work to our systems that is absolutely necessary to uproot and to jettison the false belief in a human hierarchy of human value that's based on our skin color and nothing more. 6 years, a lot has changed in 6 years. I really would love to acknowledge and to thank former Mayor Verge Bonero for his courage and his commitment, and for sending a team from Lansing on an expedition, and also for choosing One Love Global to ground and to support and to organize our community so that we could say yes to the invitation to the Kellogg Foundation, that we do want to embrace healing, that we do want to do the work of transformation, and that we're willing to examine the truth of how our community got to where it is. And I'm gonna just briefly talk about the racial equity accountability process that is critical to transformation in Lansing. Those of you who are in this space tonight are here because you care about the community. There is something about the words truth, racial healing, and transformation that made you want to show up tonight. And we're so grateful that you did. We are embarking on a process with community to name the harms from systemic, institutional, and interpersonal racism, because as Karrington just expressed, accountability is an invitation. We can either accept it or we can reject it. I have to be accountable to you tonight because yes, I did demand the mayor's resignation. There's probably people who are watching on Facebook and in this chat right now, like, weren't you the person in the call to action 2 years ago that demanded the mayor's resignation? I did. It was a tough call to make. And you have to understand that speaking truth to power as a Black woman is not an easy thing to do. And our goal is that no person in our community, no individual should ever have to stand up to systemic racism alone. Whether it is an institution like our police department, whether it's our healthcare system, all of these systems, our economic systems, our law system, all of the ways that we're segregated in community are pillars that are a part of this framework that we have to examine. Education, all of the ways that systems have historically disenfranchised and presently marginalized Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and how we as a community have to confront those systems. We're so much more powerful together than any one of us ever would be as an individual. Together, we can make this transformation. And I really want to thank the people in our community that came together to envision what a racial equity accountability process might look like. I am eternally grateful to Dashmika Torak with the Firecracker Foundation, who shared her heart and in times her home, so that we could really explore what it looks like, and for us to get a sense of what accountability really means. And so often when we hear accountability, it's punitive, and people will immediately get defensive. And so the person who was harmed experiences harm again and again and again. So tonight, we want you to experience the healing circles, because we're going to need to hold one another as we welcome Andy Shore as the first participant in the racial equity accountability process that we're going to build together. It's going to take time. Transformation will not happen overnight, unfortunately, but it's a beginning. And I'm so excited that we're beginning together tonight. As you may know, Mayor Shore accepted the invitation to be a part of the accountability process just before the November election. And we are here so that you can explore what racial healing and transformation is really about, so that together we can build a system rooted in truth about what needs to change, and for us to name what that transformation looks like, what healing justice looks like for us, because we get to define how we heal and what the institutional response needs to be. We get to dream of new systems, because once we jettison the old, once we dismantle what does not serve us, we get to dream, and we get to dream big, and we together get to build our beloved community. Back to you, Mordecai.
And so again, thank you, everyone. We're so excited to have you all join us tonight for our Healing Circle experience. And at this moment, we're going to ask each and every one of you all to help us with the responsibility and the opportunity to build our beloved community. As a part of the National Day of Healing, One Love Global and TRHT of Metro Lansing every year set aside this week, and we have called it the Beloved Community Week. It was our dear Dr. Martin Luther King who popularized the notion of the beloved community. King envisioned the beloved community as a society based on justice, equal opportunity, and love of one's fellow human beings. Dr. King's vision of the beloved community is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. In the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will no longer be tolerated. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. And so on tonight, each of us, we have the opportunity to build our beloved community fund. You see at the very top, there's a QR code. We're going to ask everyone to help us sustain our work. And through our relationship and partnership with the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, they have issued a challenge, stepped up, and said that they would match $250,000. The community contribute $250,000. They would match the contribution of the community with another $250,000, which in essence would enable us to put into the next generation's hands $500,000 for a racial equity endowment. What a great opportunity for us to continue this work by coming together. And so what I'm going to ask is everyone at this time, if you would take out your phone, turn on your camera, and we're going to ask that you would show this community love by giving something tonight. It could be as small as $1, but we want to show love. We want to come together in solidarity. And so pull out your phone, pretty please. And when you put your camera up to that QR code, right above sustain this work for generations to come, it will take you to the particular site so that you can participate. This is an amazing opportunity, and I'm excited to be a part. Many of you all know me. My name is Sean Holland, AKA Mordecai, and I'm one of the TRHT co-leads. And so this is our opportunity. And while you are building the beloved community here in Metro Lansing, I want you to hear from Dr. Gail Christopher one more time.
If you look at the idea of racism and racial hierarchy, I think of it as organized lovelessness. And the goal is to bring love back into our capacity as a society, to celebrate our sacred interconnectedness as a human family, and to develop the capacity to literally see ourselves in the face of the other.
So we're going to ask each and every one again, thank you for giving tonight. And we are now moving forward as we get ready to go into our healing spaces. Healing is an integral part of what we're working towards. And each of you will get the opportunity to experience the circle process. But just before we go into our circle process, we're going to spend some time in story sharing. We have those who are going to share some personal stories. And so I'm going to pass it over to my sister, Jen.
Hi, good evening. It's great that you're all here tonight. To be honest, I was rather hesitant to join the Healing Circle experience. I had all sorts of thoughts running through my head. I wondered if I was in the right space. I wondered if I was taking up too much space. I put these thoughts on a shelf and I took a risk. Part of the Healing Circle experience is one-on-one conversations about various topics given to us by the circle keepers. Since this particular experience I am recalling was on Zoom, we were put into breakout rooms to process the prompts given to us. I don't recall exactly what those prompts were, but there I was with a colleague and a friend. There we were, two white female pastors. I remember the two of us sharing what it was like to be raised as strong, independent, free-thinking women. by other feminists. If there was a problem, we would be the first to come up with a solution. And we're both classic overachievers and maybe even perfectionists. We shared what it was like to be doing the intentional work of putting these skill sets aside and on the back burner when it comes to racial justice and healing. We are fish out of water in a lot of ways, but we're willing to be in this process. If you are hesitant to join in the process, I encourage you to acknowledge that hesitation and show up anyway. We all have decolonizing and dismantling to do, and it starts with each and every one of our hearts. And I encourage you, it's okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just say very briefly that healing work has really transformed my life. I've been working in places where there is a hierarchy and a structure, protocols, regulations. Those kinds of places are very dominant culture. And I don't find a lot of transformational and healing spaces in there. And so it's been my reward, my personal reward to come back to community, which is where I started work, as opposed to government where I'm at right now, and find that there is more that unites us than what divides us. And I do this work because I understand that we as people of color, we're pinned against each other in a perfect design of a dominant culture and a dominant system that would have power and control over us. And healing work pretty much to me decimates that. It says no to that perfect design. It says no to white supremacy. It says no to dominant culture where one needs to be better than another. And it says yes to humanity, to being loved for who we are, and to showing up authentically, really authentically, not just saying that for the sake of saying it, but really just being embraced. So I hope that maybe touched someone else. And thank you. I'll pass it to Pat.
Hello, I'm Pat, and I joined TRHT at the very beginning. A friend told me about it, and I was like, yes, I want to see what this is about. So I walked into this room of people, and it all started. And I took some time to decide, how did I want to show up in this work? I knew I wanted to be in this work. And mostly what I did was listen. I listened, I listened, I listened. And then we started the healing circles. And I thought, yes, that's exactly how I feel like I can best fit in. I facilitated before, I've done circles before, and I strongly believe in them. I took some time. I was part of the healing circles for a long time. I did many, many circles. I don't even know how many, but I participated in a lot of circles through these years. And every one of them, I have found something new inside of myself. I've grown. I mean, the transformation for me has been spectacular. I don't want to go on too long because I know we're running a little late, but the one thing I really do want to say is that I have the strong belief in everything that I do, that healing does not come from anybody else. We can't heal anybody. All we can do is heal ourselves. But what we can do is facilitate the healing. And I feel like it's such a huge gift to be able to be a circle keeper and to facilitate healing and to be here as we deepen and deepen as time goes on. So I thank you all very much. I appreciate everybody very much in this group.
Thank you very much to Jen and Yesenia and Pat. And we're going to begin our circle our circles in about 5 minutes, but we want to say to everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live to you have the opportunity now to jump off of Facebook and come into the Zoom room so that you can be a part of our healing circles. And they put the Zoom link in the comment section so that you can click on it and be a part. Listen, you don't want to miss it. You got to get over here. I know it's fun over over on Facebook Live, but the party's happening right here in the Zoom room. And so I would like to, again, just say how much we appreciate those that are joining us from Facebook Live. And again, we are going to, in a few seconds, we're going to cut that live and then we're going to move into our healing circles. And so I'm going to pass it over to Lillian, if you would take us further in this process.
Oh, thank you, Mordecai. Well, some of you may be wondering, what is a racial healing circle? Racial healing circles have proven to be useful tools for having difficult conversations about life experiences, exploring perceived differences about people or groups of people, creating opportunities for diverse groups of people to achieve things together that they cannot achieve alone. A racial healing circle is an experience that engages the heart. It requires your heart to be open and accepting. It is intended to reaffirm the humanity in all of us. It is a commitment to acknowledging that unconscious bias lives in all of us. It is the spiritual work of affirming and loving ourselves. It is encouraging people to tell their stories, to listen deeply, to find common ground and build relationships. What a racial healing circle is not, is intended to be a problem-solving exercise, or to call someone out for biased thinking, or to fix someone or offer advice. Racial healing and relationship building focuses on ways for all of us to heal from the wounds of the past, to build mutually respectful relationships across racial and ethnic lines, and to honor and value each person's humanity. So today, as you engage in the healing circle, there will be an opening ceremony, and that's to create the space, set the energy of the circle, and anchor the intention through an introductory question. You will meet a pair of diverse racial healing circle keepers that will facilitate the circle. We will also talk through a set of group agreements. We refer to those as touchstones. You will be given a strong reflection question, and this will be used to prompt story sharing and the deep listening experience. Now, in telling your stories, this is an opportunity for each person to share by invitation. And if you're not moved to share, you are welcome to say, I pass. Then there's an opportunity for the group together to engage in a group reflection on the shared stories. And finally, there's a closing exercise to bring all the participants together in collective closure of the healing circle experience. So now, remember those group agreements I mentioned? We call them touchstones. They are the principles we follow for ensuring that the healing circle is a safe space for all participants to share a personal story and practice deep listening to a story that is shared. Now, sometimes we can get caught up in the fire a story ignites within us. So we follow the touchstones to keep us grounded and respectful of the storyteller. And if we could have the touchstones on the screen, you will see these are our group agreements. And I'll share with you a few, and the other circle keepers will talk about the rest. Number one, be 100% present. You want to make sure that you extend a welcome and presume that you are welcome. Clear your mind of distractions, turn off your phone, release your worries, and focus intently on listening to the stories shared in the circle. Next, we have extend kindness. Be kind in the words you speak, in your actions and expressions. Always show kindness towards one another by showing the grace and courtesy that you want to receive. And listen deeply. That means listen intently to what is said. Listen to the feeling in the words that are spoken. When you listen deeply, you listen another person's soul into life. And so now we'll have Pat share a few more.
Number 4 is sharing is always by invitation. You never have to participate. You're always participating just by being there. You never have to participate by speaking. You're still a participant. So it's up to you how much you want to share. No fixing. It's not our job to fix anybody else. They are who they are. It's our job to be there for them.
Thank you, Pat. Number 6, suspend judgment. As that beautiful young man taught us about suspending our judgment, take a moment to just listen without drawing any conclusion. Just listen and be present. Identify assumptions. Take some time to get to know your own assumptions, especially when they rise up in the moment. Allow yourself some time to see them so that you can identify them.
Thank you very much, Roxanne. Number 8, speak your truth. We don't want to hear stories about Uncle Bob and Aunt Alice. We want to hear your stories. We're here to share our personal stories. So when you're sharing your stories, use I statements. I did this. I think this. I feel this. Number 9, respect silence. In our busy, busy world, sometimes silence bothers people. Some people can't sleep unless the TV is on or the radio is on. As a facilitator, I used to think that if there was silence in the room, I wasn't doing my job. Okay, but silence is important. We don't get enough of it, and sometimes we need to just say, "Stop," and let me off the bus.
Oh, thank you, Carlton. And is Shani there to
I am here. Thank you. Yes. Number 10, maintain confidentiality. We want to create a safe space by respecting people's confidences. The nature and content of these discussions are extremely sensitive, so we want to make sure that they are held in the circle, and what is said in the circle remains there. Number 11, when things get difficult, turn to wonder. If you find yourself disagreeing with someone, instead of becoming judgmental or shutting down, try turning to wonder. Basically, I wonder what brought her to this place, or I wonder what my reaction teaches me, or I wonder what he or she is feeling right now, or they are feeling right now. And then the last touchstone is no language of the soul is privileged above any other of the soul. And that speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Now, I need all of us to agree to follow the touchstones by raising a hand or clicking on the hand raised reaction in Zoom. So I just need a collective agreement that we will follow the touchstones as we go into our healing circles. All right. Is everyone agreeing? Great, that's fantastic. So now I will introduce you to Sarah, who is our circle technician this evening. She is truly the glue that keeps us all together in every way, trust me. And she will explain a few technical details. Sarah.
Thank you, Lillian, and hello, everyone. Really excited to experience this circles with you. During this time, I do want to name that you will be invited into a breakout room to participate in a circle with a smaller group of people. You have the option to stay in the main room if you prefer. We're going to have continued programming here and information sharing. So that will include some Q&A and more information about the TRHT process. It will also include featured music performances and sharing of information from local organizations doing amazing work and some dialogue about how we work together. I do want to strongly encourage to try the circle experience if you're willing. It's really incredible, and we'll have many spaces to share information and celebrate in other ways, but this is truly a unique experience. So if you're comfortable, please do join your breakout.
Again, you have the opportunity to ask questions. What is TRHT? What is the framework? How do you get involved? What does a commitment look like to TRHT? And so we'll share all that information with you as soon as we get the rest of the family members accepted their invitations into the circle spaces.
Yeah, so I just shared the programming this week, film series about public health and civil rights. All the programs I'm mentioning are free, open to the public. We want to see you there. I know we're all online, but still we can connect, right? The main thing that I mentioned was this Muslim Journeys book discussion group, film and book discussion group. And we do have some really wonderful events coming up, including at East Lansing Public Library, a viewing of parts of Spike Lee's Malcolm X, and then a discussion in the end of March of this Palestinian feminist novel, historical fiction, takes place in the years before 1948. So not only entering another world, but another time. I enjoy, especially during this time. It's nice to enter another time, even if it was, anyway. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, I want to tell you, just speaking in terms of Malcolm X, from this Muslim Journeys book discussion group, we've read the autobiography of Malcolm X and discussed it. We've read the young adult novel, X, a novel by Ilyasa Shabazz. If you haven't read that one, it's great. Great for young people. So just, we've read other books that engage like the intersection of Muslimness and racism, a lot of different ones. Another one that I could recommend if you want, or how's my time?
You're all good, thank you.
Okay. The other one, let's see if I can go to this other screen. Another a book that we've read in the past, but is this book called The Moor's Account by Layla Lalami, about the imagined memoirs of the first Black explorer in America. Estebanico, his name was. It's a really good, really back in time, and obviously very violent time, the conquest of the Americas, but I recommend that book. We've also watched the film Prince Among Slaves, and so we've really tried to engage with, many of the enslaved people brought here were Muslim, and, discussing that and learning about our history.
So Deborah, let's see if there are any questions.
Yes, please.
If you could stop share so we could see everybody back in the main room.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Stop share. There it is. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with everyone, and invite everybody to join us at any of these events that you can make it to. Some are in person, some are online.
So anyone have any questions for Deborah and representing Muslim Journeys? All right, let's hear from GLAMS, Greater Lansing Area Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. We want you to come and present.
Welcome, everybody. Kristen Fawcett is going to be sharing a screen with a few clips from our video, and then Linda will speak. We'll begin. We have 5 people who are going to be speaking, so I'm going to silence myself while Kristen shares the screen with her video, our video.
We are the grassroots voices of the Greater Lansing Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, part of a national movement.
The Greater Lansing area moms believe that we can help create a safer Lansing and a world without gun violence. There are many facets to our work. We advocate for gun sense legislation, which includes meeting with representatives and raising public awareness. We support Be Smart, a nonpartisan educational campaign to teach families about gun safety and safe gun storage. We support gun sense candidates during local, state, and national elections. We offer healing and support for survivors and victims of gun violence. We also believe in stopping the root causes of gun violence. We take pride in supporting local organizations like Mikey 23.
So thank you, Kristen. So Linda is going to begin and talk a little bit about the work we do on, we're going to talk about the work we do on elections, the work we do for survivors of gun violence, for our partners in the community, our Be Smart program for gun sense, and our advocacy work. And we don't really have an order, but Linda, since you're right there on the screen, why don't you get started?
Hi, Linda, you'll want to go ahead and unmute so that we can hear you. Thank you. No worries.
Go. Got me now? Okay, so as Kristen said and Katie said, we're a diverse group and we're multifaceted in our approach to trying to make our lives safe from gun violence. And one of the things that we do is support political candidates that we have surveyed, and their results of the surveys we give them a gun sense distinction, which means that they support common sense gun laws to prevent gun violence. So that's one of the things that we do. And so we try and educate our members about these candidates and offer ways that they can support them by volunteering or by donating to them. But we feel like it's important to be out there with these candidates wearing our red shirts so that we also remind them every step of the way that what we care about is getting some good legislation to keep us safer from gun violence, like safe storage laws or domestic violence laws or universal background checks. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do on elections.
And Kristen, since you're on the screen, maybe you can talk about our partnership and our local work with our partners.
Sure. Yeah, before I joined Moms Demand Action, you know, I always wanted to be a part of it, but I thought it was just trying to get laws passed and trying to get people voted into office. But it's so much more in that we are a team committed to this particular community, and as such, try to partner with as many organizations as we can that support this kind of work to end the violence. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean something directly related to guns. I mean, one of the groups we're working with right now is Nation Outside. And so it's about getting landlords to let formerly incarcerated people live in apartment complexes or whatnot. And we're working with that group. And you might say, hey, directly related to guns. But of course, if people can't get adequate housing, then there's a threat. If people can't, eat, there's a threat, all those things. We work very closely with Mikey 23 here in Lansing. There's someone from Moms, I think, at all of their events. We love to lend our voices and our efforts to community organizations. And most recently, my church has housed our meetings. And so now it's a way to get my church more involved, and we're looking to get faith communities more involved. We'd love to get One Love Global more involved. Some may know the statistic that in Michigan, a Black person is 22 times more likely to be killed by a gun than a white person, which is just awful. And that discrepancy is just unacceptable. And so obviously racial justice has to be a part of our partnerships as well if we're going to do this work.
Thank you, Kristen. Our work with survivors is at the heart of what Moms does. We want to support people who are survivors of gun violence and engage them in this transformative work. Trudy Bauer is our local survivors lead, and she's going to speak about that work. Trudy, you need to unmute yourself. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. I lost my husband to a suicide attempt, and Moms has been really paramount in my recovery from that, and being able to not only meet but care about other survivors of suicide has given me some really extra strength and perspective and hope, because these people who have experienced suicide from a loved one, family member, loved one, it's an amazing ordeal. It is a very profound, difficult experience. Not everyone in Moms has had a personal experience with suicide, but many of us have. One of the things that I have been really touched by that GLAMS does is our Wear Orange Day, where we honor survivors of suicide. And that has been a really special thing for me. Also, what we have done recently, we collectively made something called soul boxes, these small little boxes to honor those who we have lost to suicide. And they became part of a state display. We displayed ours, and then we also contributed those to a state display. So it's that sense of really honoring those people who have struggled with the effects of a loved one committing suicide. Also recently, a really powerful experience for me was attending the first national gun violence survivors, suicide survivors conference. It was a webinar, and it was national. There were people from all over the United States. It was dynamic. The people who spoke were so positive and affirming and caring. I was really proud to be part of that experience. I am interested in doing even more at the state level to support gun violence, suicide survivors. It is very healing. I will tell you that. It is a very healing part of my life. So.
Thank you so much, Trudy. And let me just expand on Trudy to say that we are addressing all forms of gun violence loss, homicide, suicide, unintentional shootings. And we have members who have just this horrific range of the impacts of gun violence on our community. And we have a video that's up on the website tonight, and I hope it will stay up on the National Day of Racial Healing website, which is a set of interviews with 6 of our survivors, 2 survivors of homicide, 2 survivors of domestic violence, 2 survivors of suicide. So all forms of gun violence are what we engage in and address. I don't know if Edie Harley is here tonight. I don't see her. She was going to speak about our Be Smart for Kids program. Let me just talk about that briefly because I don't see Edie. I don't know if she couldn't get in on the call. Unless you see her, Sarah, in this room, and I'm not, okay. We have a program of outreach, particularly powerful in the Lansing area, where we have seen such a horrific spike in youth gun violence. Our program is called Be Smart for Kids. And the point of the program is to educate adults about our responsibility to youth, to protect them from the dangers of gun violence by acting in smart ways around guns. Moms Demand Action supports everybody's right to own guns, to own arms, but also their equivalent responsibility to deal with those in a responsible way. And that's what Be Smart for Kids is about securing and storing your weapons, about, I'm not a Be Smart speaker, so I'm just gonna do this kind of free range, but about being aware, particularly of the risks for young people of teen suicide, and therefore knowing how to secure weapons, how to have conversations, doing the ask, talking to your neighbors and your children's friends, the parties your kids go to, about whether or not there are weapons in a home or at an event, and are they safely secured. So this is a program that we bring to the schools. We're working with the Lansing schools and with the Ingham County Roundtable of Superintendents to bring this to parents all over Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton County. So that's another pillar of our work in the community. And then the last pillar of our work in the community is advocacy work, and Mike is going to talk about that.
Thank you. Well, the Greater Lansing Area Moms has a very active advocacy program aimed at promoting gun safety and the reduction of gun violence. In addition to taking part in a yearly statewide moms event in Lansing, where volunteers go to the offices of legislators and talk about our priorities, we also, during the whole year, tend to reach out to our local representatives to help us to try to achieve our goals, both through legislation and through state funding. An example of this effort that was successful in the last year was working with 2 local representatives in the state legislature, Sarah Anthony and Kara Hope, on achieving funding for a very successful gun violence intervention program called Advanced Peace. And actually that effort not only was working with the state legislators, it was also working with other local leaders, such as the Ingham County Commission and the city of Lansing. So basically, our organization tries all different avenues in order to try to achieve these goals of reducing gun violence and increasing gun safety in our community.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody. join GLAMS, you can text READY to 64433. You can also send us an email at lansingmomsdemandaction@gmail.com, and we will bring you into our circle, which is ever expanding. There is space here for every kind of activism. If you want to nurture and support survivors of gun violence, we do our own form of healing circles. If you want to advocate and transform the policy landscape, you can join our advocacy team and our elections team. If you want to build out in Lansing with our strong partnerships of those in the community who are addressing the underlying causes of gun violence, you can join and be part of our partnership team. There's space in GLAMS for every form of activism. And we are such a welcoming community. And we are in sync with One Love Global and TRHT for doing this kind of transformative work to address the legacy of systemic racism as it has affected all of our communities, both rural and urban, both white and Black, and folks of color, the whole BIPOC community. All of us have been deeply affected in very distinctive ways by the perils of gun violence. And we welcome you in joining us in addressing all of the complexities of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you for being with us tonight. You know, one of the questions that I did have was when the FBI categorized Lansing as the 9th most violent city in America. That was pretty startling given our total population. And then again, as the rise of gun violence, we've set a pretty aggressive schedule. One Love Global's goal for this year, our big, what we, way back in the day, we'd have called a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, is that no youth would die this year of gun violence. And that all of our work would be centered around that goal, that our relationships that we build, that we continue to maintain, would be that we would communicate to our youth that you matter, your life matters. And so we thank you for being with us. My question specifically is, when the FBI put that out, what were some of the things that your group put in place to really begin to move your efforts forward?
So Mordecai, I would say that data did not surprise us, that when you see what a small community Lansing is, and yet how disproportionate the violence is in Lansing relative to its size, that explains, at least in part, why we would rank highly in this FBI data. Our pillars are in place. They are building relationships with those places in the community that are addressing the vulnerability of our youth, working with the school superintendent and the local school districts to see what those underlying causes are and how we can address them together. Understanding how violence requires restorative practices so that, and you could see that in the meditation as we began this meeting tonight, a recognition that we need to be speaking to people's spirits and hearts, as well as to the bigger policy issues. So we are trying to move this from the bottom up and from the bottom out. I hope that's not too vague an answer.
Oh, no, this is a discussion. That's why we're here in the main room, and we want to give space for those who have questions as well. And we know that anytime the teacher asks you if you have any question, it takes an average of 2.5 minutes for you to think of your answer. So while you're thinking of your question, I want us to hear from Mila, who is a local regional visual artist. And then we're going to hear from the Tri-County Office of Aging and Lansing Commons Anti-Racist Soccer Club. So let's bring in Melina and let's reflect on what we just heard. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Art as a child, I feel drawing was the first thing that my dad taught me how to do, and that was like really how we bonded.
So let's start by talking about these two gentlemen that you have to your left and to your right. These two are from the Black is King series. You've got a lot of traction with this, and so can you just take us back and explain to us like what inspired you to even go down this path?
So last year, one of the first commissions I did was for a client. When I posted that, people's reaction was like, wow, that's so empowering, or I love looking at that. Like, it made people feel good to look at. And I was like, oh, I already saw that, so. But I made prints, and I just remember the response, like, me thinking, like, I want people to feel like that all the time. Like, you can brainwash people into positivity, right?
Yeah.
So if we're being brainwashed to think that we're stupid, that we can't hold a job, that, you know, we're villains, that, you know, all these negative things, like, why not brainwash the opposite and then see like what comes of that? So, like, if I tell you like Black culture is dope and Black culture needs healing and Black culture gets all this attention, then maybe like we'll have funds to, you know, deal with mental health, or maybe we'll just, it won't be so taboo. Although we all may be in the Black community, like, that healing is not going to be congruent across the board, right? Like, some people need healing heavily in this section and some people need healing over here. So I think there's just levels to it, and I think that not having like a stigma about healing or asking for help when you do need help would be like a good start, right?
Yeah.
So we thank Mila and for that, and we know that art and creativity is an integral part of healing, especially in the Black community. And so we always like to lift up the voices of our artists and our creatives in our community. They play such a role in this process. And healing is not a one-time event, it is a process, as Dr. Gail Christopher often says. And so I'd like to ask for Eric Walcott, if he is here. Eric, if you're here, if you could talk to us a little bit. I saw this on the list, and so I'm interested.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Eric Walcott. I'm with Lansing Common FC. Lansing Common is Lansing's nonprofit, community-owned semi-pro soccer team. It was started by a group of fans after Lansing Ignite folded a few years ago. It's completely fan-owned, fan-run, and anyone can be involved in that. We play our games in the summer at Eastern Stadium, but our goal has always been to be more than that. I often describe us as a community organization that happens to run a soccer team, because while our season is 3 months long, we work really hard to be engaged in the community year round. So in 2021, which was our first full year, that included things like financial support to a number of local community organizations, donating goals and soccer equipment to a local elementary school, and running a program called Community Kicks that pairs soccer with summer food distribution, where our players and coaches go run a free soccer camp for 4 weeks at a summer meal program site in the Lansing area. But the thing that I want to focus on today is our participation in the Anti-Racist Soccer Club effort. So Anti-Racist Soccer Club is a coalition that was created to fight racism in American soccer and in our communities. The organizations and the individuals that founded it understand the need to address ongoing systemic racism that exists within our sport and in our communities with action. And so they came up with a 10-point plan that's kind of the foundation for what teams like ours that want to be part of it can build on as a starting point. So clubs can apply to join the coalition by submitting a version of the plan that fits their community. And then that gets reviewed by a leadership team. And then once a team is accepted into the coalition, there's quarterly reviews to provide that accountability and kind of check on the commitment to action in combating racism. So at Lansing Common, we recognize that if we're going to live into our values as a club, to be engaged in the community, That means being actively engaged in the work of anti-racism. We founded the club to lift up the community, and if we're not actively working against racism in society, we're failing to lift up our community. So last summer, we launched a community input process to gather input from across the community to inform our 10-point plan. And since then, a smaller group of us has been working to take all that information, all the feedback that we received, and develop our plan, which we did submit to the Anti-Racist Soccer Club Coalition in early December. So now we're working to finalize that plan and then also work on implementation and taking steps towards kind of achieving the outcomes that that we set for ourselves in that plan. And I'm really excited to be here tonight because we know that there's so many organizations and groups in the Lansing area doing such great work in this area, and that we can be more impactful by building relationships and collaborating rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and do things on our own that we know others are already doing so effectively. So it's been awesome hearing about what other organizations have been up to, and I'm looking forward to learning more and possibly connecting if there's, if anyone's interested in working with us or has ideas for organizations or efforts that we should be working with or supporting. Because this is something that's really important to us as a team. It was kind of fun engaging some of our players in some of the efforts last summer and seeing them engage with youth in the community in that way, and continuing to talk about what that looks like as we continue to grow as an organization. That's really all I kind of wanted to share real quick there. I'll put a few links in the chat if anyone wants more information about kind of what I've been talking about, and I'm happy to answer some questions.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone have any questions? Going back to our GLAMS, anyone have any questions for any of our organizations? Please, you have the opportunity. While we're going to call Tammy Limmer from Tri-County Office of Aging. Please put your questions in the comment section as well. Eric, you're going to drop those in the chat.
Yep, I just put a link to Lansing Commons website and then also the Anti-Racist Soccer Club website if folks want to learn more about that.
Thank you. All right, let's hear from Tammy with the Tri-County Office of Aging.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mordecai. Thank you, Unlove Global, for inviting me to participate today. For those of you who don't know, the Tri-County Office on Aging is the local area agency on aging for Clinton, Eaton, and Ingham counties. So what that means is we exist to support older adults, their family members, and their caregivers in living independently in their homes and in their communities. Our goal is to help people stay living where they want to live, and avoiding or perhaps even preventing the need for long-term skilled nursing care or nursing homes. Now, not that there's anything wrong with nursing homes, they do serve a purpose, but in our society, there's this kind of mindset of inevitability. And so as an area agency on aging, we exist to promote and make available alternatives to that skilled nursing or to that long-term care. And why am I participating in this event? Why is it so important that we bring forward information about services and programs for our older adults? Well, we're aware of, we're not a healthcare agency per se, but we do work with individuals who are facing chronic health conditions and may not be, as we all age, our bodies don't always work the same way, or we aren't always able to do as many of the same things for the same ways that we used to. And so we have to acknowledge, and do as an organization, acknowledge the impact on the social determinants of health, and that many individuals from communities of color have not had the same equitable access to healthcare. They have not always had access to medical treatments or prescription medications. And unfortunately, there are larger systems at play that have created barriers, institutional and systematic barriers to healthcare and access to programs and services. So we are here as an agency to help, hopefully, address some of those barriers, address and fill some of those gaps in services that are available. And we're trying to, as an organization, be someplace, as a nonprofit organization, be someplace that is open and welcoming and inclusive for our employees, as well as our community members, the individuals that we serve. And that includes the older adults, as well as families and caregivers, because that's an important component of helping people live independently and staying safe and healthy in their homes. So there's a wide variety of programs and services that we offer. We, at a very basic level, provide information assistance. If you have a question about a service, a program, need for assistance, we are available at 517-887-1440, and I'll put that in the chat. And you can call us, and we joke, you can call us about anything. Sometimes we can answer the question, sometimes we can't. But if it's about older adult programming or services or assistance that's available, we're probably going to be able to at least direct you to somewhere that's going to be able to meet your needs. If we don't do it internally as one of our own programs and services, we have a partner network that hopefully will be able to do that. And in addition to, again, being an equitable, inclusive work environment for our own employees and staff, we of course obviously need to and want to extend that to the general public and the people that we're working with. So again, with our information assistance staff, who we've actually expanded to include 2 individuals who are what we call community resource navigators. And those are similar to what people might know of as community health workers. So they're available to spend a little extra time, dig a little deeper into what might be going on with that individual, help walk through processes for maybe applying for assistance or learning more about programs. We actually have helped people, identify the documents or the documentation that they need to apply for different programs and services in the community. And I saw a question pop up, how do we define older adults? It's a great question. We are funded by, and our structure was created by the Older Americans Act. That's federal legislation that dates back to actually the late 1960s. And we as an organization and a network of area agencies, we were founded locally in 1974. So we're coming up on in a year or two, we'll be hitting 45 years of service to the community. And so in that Older Americans Act, older adults are defined as age 60. There are a handful of programs. One is a kinship care program, which is for age 55 and older. Kinship care is for individuals who may be caring for a minor child. A good example, grandparents raising or providing the primary care for their grandchild. And that's a situation. And we talk about gun violence, when we talk about people who've been imprisoned by unjust systems. There are a lot of families and communities of color where kinship care is the model. That is who is caring for those young children. So that's a 55 and up eligibility. The one other thing I want to point out is that while we administer some programs that have an income eligibility, generally as an area agency on aging, our programs are not income based. That even includes the popular and pretty well-known program, which is called Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels is not an income-based program. It is a needs-based program. And when I say needs-based, it's access to healthy nutritional meals. That the barrier might be an ability to cook for yourself. The barrier might be not able to go shopping, to get the healthy foods, to prepare those healthy meals for yourself. So we really want to make sure the community is aware of that too, that this is not an income-based program, but these are needs-based, again, with the emphasis on promoting independence and dignity, helping individuals stay living independently, safely in their homes and in their communities. I don't want to go through the whole laundry list of all the different things that we do, but again, at that core of information assistance, extending to helping to connect with in-home services such as Meals on Wheels, and other in-home services that might include chore services or personal care needs, etc. Little things that we may take for granted as we age, that take a little more effort perhaps now as our bodies are changing or our health conditions are changing. So again, thank the One Love Global and all of our community partners in inviting us here today. I'm happy to answer any questions. And then again, I'll put the website and our phone number in the chat for people who would like more information about who we are, what we do, or perhaps would like to host. We offer informational sessions in person, online, small groups, large groups. We're almost a best kept secret kind of organization. We don't do a lot of, any paid marketing. We're a word of mouth kind of an organization. We rely and are grateful for our community partners and inviting us to speak and talk about the programs and services that we offer. And we do have relationships with organizations such as the Lansing Area Latino Health Alliance, the National Black Caucus on Aging, other small either local and or statewide groups that are looking at issues that face older adults in marginalized communities.
Well, Tammy, we want to thank you for presenting. I have first personal experience with the office. My mother, who fell sick at around 63 years old and very young, and we were trying to get her into facilities where there was adequate health care. And the more we dug, we saw that there was very few, if any, African Americans that were in quality assisted living facilities to get quality health care. And we were basically rejected and doors were closed. And it was all either a financial issue or some other kind of loophole. But your office really advocated for my mom, and she was able to get the health care that she needed. So I want to thank you for that. I'm looking right at the camera. I want to thank you. So tell everyone at the office, they probably know me because I was a headache, but I was not letting up on this situation. And so thank you very much, Tammy, to you and your team and all the folks that work so hard.
You're welcome. Well, I'm glad we were able to be of some assistance. And again, it is so frustrating to us here to hear when there are challenges or barriers that are put up, whether intentional or otherwise. And quite honestly, an extension of this work, we do a lot of advocacy on behalf of direct care workers. So those are the individuals who are going into homes, providing that direct care. And unfortunately, it's a very under-respected, under-resourced field. It's people who are often doing this because they have big hearts and they want to help people. They want to make a difference in the lives of whether it's older adults or adults with disabilities, et cetera. And, a large number of our direct care workforce are, in particular, women of color. And again, to have it be a field that is not very well paid, not very well resourced, we're trying to advocate for changes in that. And again, it ties back to those systems. We're state and federally funded, and we have, there's only so much, but we're constantly striving to improve those working conditions, improve the training, improve the support for those direct care workers, who then in turn are working with our older adults and adults with disabilities. So again, thank you for those kind words. And it's just another layer of why this work and the topics from this evening are so important.
No, thank you. And to all of our organizations, we have one final organization that's on the list, and I see Julia is with us. Julia, Punks with Lunch, Lansing, Julia Miller. You have the mic.
Hi, thanks for having me here, and it was really informative and appreciative of all the different organizations that presented, and I'm happy to have learned so much about everybody. Julia from Punks with Lunch Lansing, and we are one of 6 punctual lunch chapters that are located across the United States. We are predominantly a community-funded grassroots organization that is basically a street outreach group that we do work within the community involving predominantly people who are unsheltered or at risk. We provide sack lunches and other supplies. We go out and do regularly scheduled street outreach dates where we set up and provide harm reduction packets and information, food. We provide shelter equipment to the unsheltered, to the homeless camps, like tents, blankets, winter wear, and hygiene kits, all kinds of different supplies for people in need. We collaborate with a lot of different organizations within the community, like the Spartan Street Medicine Team and Helping Women Period. We collaborate with the Fledge Community Center to help to connect the dots within the community to get resources and provide you know, a safety net of supplies for people. Most of the time we are can be found at the Fledge, providing supplies there, and also at Rudder Park, downtown Lansing, and in the downtown Lansing area between Cata bus station, Porter apartment buildings, and also down where there's a lot of homeless communities in the area there. One thing that we stand out with compared to other outreach groups is our harm reduction program. That includes, you know, assisting people who use substance, have substance use disorders, and that we're there to look after them, to help them stay safe, to use safe. We provide Narcan and to, you know, anybody in the community, because we always say that people who overdose can't recover. People who overdose can't go to rehab. So we want people to stay safe. We want people to be safe. So in the hope that they can reach the point of recovery. And we're there to offer recovery services, to offer, you know, information if they choose to want to address that, and you know, join a support system of recovery. We're there to give them that information. We always say that we love you, no matter what you've done. We love you and we want you to be safe. And we realize that a lot of issues that are within, you know, people's lives and within the community, you know, people always say that, you know, well, why don't they just get a job? Why don't they just get a house? Why don't they just stop using drugs? It's not so easy. You know, there's so much going on in people's lives that's trauma-based, that's a mental health issue, that's a community issue that, you know, we try to address, that, you know, people need to heal. People need community, and they need to feel that love and feel that trust in order to be healed, in order to you know, go to the next step, to decide, you know what, I'm done with the way things are, and I want to be better. I want to be healed, and they want to, you know, live another day. So a good chunk of what we are doing is just connecting with people and building that trust and letting people know that they're loved and that they're appreciated no matter who they are. And that if they need help with food, with resources, with recovery information, we're there to assist them and help them and love them. So, and we've been doing that for the last 4 years, and we'll continue as long as it's needed.
Julia, thank you very much. Anyone have any questions? I am, if you notice above each of our heads, the caption is how we heal. And this is how we heal. We do it together. And again, I want to remind us of the TRHT framework and why we are here tonight. This is a very important part of our community healing. And when we talk about TRHT, it is, we say, a process and a framework that allows communities to heal and produce actionable change, right? And so you think about all the work that One Love Global and TRHT engages in the community. Number one, the first pillar is narrative change, examining how to create and distribute new, complex, and complete narratives in every aspect of our culture. And so this is very important that we challenge, false narratives, but also that we distribute truth narratives. And so in our world of alternative realities and the meta and my truth and your truth, we are challenged because now facts are being challenged, but there is a truth narrative. And so narrative change is so important. And as we're talking about these pillars, we want you to fill up the comment section here when I finish. Where do you see alignment in our work? Because when we get off of this call, we can't go back to our different corners, right? We have to really galvanize ourselves. So narrative change is one. Racial healing and relationship building, focusing on ways for all of us to heal from the wounds of the past, to build mutually respectful relationships across racial, ethnic lines that honor and value each person's humanity and build trusting intergenerational diverse community relationships. So this work of racial healing and relationship building is not something that you can just lean in once a year and you're out. This is consistent. This is constant, so to speak. And so we're absolutely grateful that you're here. And so the other pillars, so we got narrative change, we got racial healing and relationship building. And then when we first started, there was one pillar called separation, right? Beyond separation, examining and finding ways to address segregation, colonization, and concentrated poverty in neighborhoods to eliminate unsure equitable access to healthcare, education, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you see colonization and separation in our community? What I just heard is how we heal. Each organization has a piece, but we have to come together. We also do, and we focus on law, which is an important pillar in dismantling the illusion and false premise of white supremacy and racism, reviewing discriminatory civil and criminal laws and public policies that come from literally the past, right? And so I work with the Vera Institute of Justice. And, so we just want to talk about our alignment and narrative change, racial healing and separation and law. And then last but not least, which these are all economy and law are two big pillars of the beloved community. And so when we talk about economy, studying structural inequality and barriers to economic opportunities and recommending approaches that can create an equitable society. If this is what you're about, you want to build the beloved community, TRHT of Metro Lansing is where you want to connect. We have, we call it the TRHT. We are a learning community we're forever learning, forever growing. And so I want to thank you all for being with us here in this main space. And we're just going to pause here for questions. We got some amazing performances and we're coming to the close. Those that are in the healing spaces, they're landing the proverbial plane, so to speak. So what I'd like to do is just fill up the comment section. Where do you see alignment? And what do we need to do once tonight is over to continue this discussion of healing? And while you're thinking, last year we had the land acknowledgement and we had our Indigenous brothers and sisters on, and they said, it's great that you acknowledge that you're on sacred land, but what about reparations? How do you restore the harm? Acknowledging it is one thing, but how do you give back what was stolen? Which was a very deep conversation that we had last year. We couldn't really dig deep in that, but I think this is something we need to really think about, is not just acknowledging the harm, but holding ourselves accountable to the point where the harm is repaired. And so this is the second iteration. We are in the 5th year of our grant process with W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and this work will continue this work will continue. So what I'd like to do, as you all are filling up the comment section, if your camera's on, I want you to show all these organizations some love by just putting your hand up to your camera and showing them some love. We want to feel the energy right here. That's what we want. We're all a community. We want to feel that energy. And so, Sarah, how much time do we have while I check the comment section?
We've got about 10 minutes.
All right, I want you to see one of the performances by one of our local artists, and then we'll just continue to communicate in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Customary move, pose, holding people over. Feeling wasted even though I'm always staying sober. Tired of overthinking cause the end is getting closer and I'm always on the edge. Got an overactive motor, I'm confused about the rules like I'm watching Olympic curling. Thinking about my old home, got my head hurting. I'ma make it back in Cali and that's for certain. But for now we got Corona and all of it's just a burden, yeah. Gotta use my time wise before it's all gone. I feel like the way I'm doing it is all wrong. Even if there is a day where the pain's gone, I'll be writing songs today looking at my tombstone. Fame is a fool's gold, but I'm still chasing it. Flashing lights, long nights, feeling like you making it. I know it's a facade, but I'm never gonna take the hit. No, got a numbing agent, gotta find a way to live. Yeah. Yeah. I miss the place where I come from, it's home. But I'll be headed back when I'm grown. I'll be on the edge cause I'm not afraid of the snow. But when I blow, I'll be back in the fold. Cause I know that even though I'm young, I also know I'm only getting older. Not so only getting colder. There's an angel and a devil on my shoulder. I don't know who I should listen to. All my thoughts are cloudy cause they speaking from two different views. Always coming up with ideas, so impatient. They looking at my spot in the game and they not complacent. I don't know the cutoff, I'm feeling like I'm racing. When you work your butt off, it's hard to say you'll make it cause you're the one who's showing up, but someone else is blowing up. Workload is going up, my bank account is showing dust. Feeling like my mind is overrun, I hope it's worth it. I just want to make a statement when I'm done.
Let's hear it up. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We have our those that have participated in the healing spaces, they will be joining us, but we do have some direct action, and the links will be placed in the comment section for you to get involved. We know exactly what's happening with voting rights in this country, which is absolutely appalling. And but that's why we're here tonight, to fight against these contrary winds to freedom and liberty. And so click the comment section so that you can get involved with the direct action, like let's join hands. And this is a part, our Liberation Pack is a part of our policy center. So as you can see, the work is diverse and you can help us in many, many different ways. Also, we do have a survey that we want you to fill out for your participation, and that link will also be placed in the comment section. So you all can get a jump on those coming back. So if you could fill out the survey, as well as be a part of the direct action. Both links will be placed in the comment section for you to participate in.
I hope you all had a wonderful experience in your circles. It's a pretty incredible process, and I know our circle keepers are amazing and very supportive. So I hope you all enjoyed and will participate in future circles. There will be more this year, the opportunity to be part of a cohort where you get to see people in your circle over the course of 4 different sessions, so you can go collectively deeper. But thank you so much for being a part. And again, for all who stay with us in the main room and celebrated here as well. So now I'm going to turn it back to you, Jordan.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome back, everybody. I really encourage you, if you want to reflect in the chat about your experience in the circle, you can share some words, share some reaction emojis, how it was. Again, we're really thrilled that you chose to spend your evening with us in celebration of this really important day. And please don't leave if you don't have to quite yet. For the last 15 minutes, we're going to end on a really strong note. We're going to share some next steps and actions, but also to close, we're going to do a little bit of group storytelling. And so this activity is adapted from Norma Wong's talk story, and also a recent webinar around transforming the office of sheriff and our criminal legal system more wholly. It's going to require a little bit of creativity, a little bit of dreaming from us all. And if it helps, you can close your eyes so that you can close out what's around you. And really, I encourage you to lean in and imagine, because this is a story of the future. This activity is meant to help us think about our present historic moment and dream into our path forward and what we can create together for the future. The story needs all of us. So here is the story. When Hope walked out the door and outside, they felt full of love. They saw beautiful oak trees above them, green leaves about to turn different colors in the fall. In the distance, they could hear drums beating at the weekly festival. They could hear the birds chirping, and the sun above them was shining. As they drew near to the weekly festival, they saw dancers in the distance. It was a smooth dance. Not everyone was a good dancer, but everyone was doing their own thing. They could see a little shimmy to the side, a little dust off the shoulders. They could hear people singing, even people who didn't know they could sing. It was beautiful. And the smells were amazing. There were delicious foods, vegetables piled high, fruits from every corner of the country. And here's where I need a little bit of your help. What else did Hope see in this world? This world where they feel love and joy. What did they see? What did they smell? Help me out in the chat here. Go ahead, load it up. What does Hope see? What does Hope smell? Children laughing. That's beautiful. I love that. What else does Hope see? What else does Hope smell? Hugs and smiles. Peace. Hope is experiencing peace. a place where everyone belongs. Thank you, Anna. Joy. What does joy feel like? What does joy smell like? Expression. Ah, fresh flowers. I can see that. I can smell that. Foods from all over the world. Colorful clothing from all over. Yes, unlimited food for everyone. And open skies. I love all the food, right? We all can connect to food. It brings us together. Hugs and smiles, smiles and laughters. Thank you so much. Keep going. And I'm going to ask, what about the instruments, right? Like the artist, Shani, thank you, right? We are at the festival. What instruments do we hear? What instruments are playing? Yes, disabled bodies thriving in dancing. A flute. Rodney's violin is with us in this future that is beautiful. Drums and sax. Yes. And stories being shared over fire. Yes, wind blowing through the trees, rattles. And people, name who was in the crowd. What were they doing? What does it feel like and look like to be together? Mamas talking with themselves as they cook violins. Oh, embracing. How green. Children running around freely. Families for generations. This is so beautiful. Do you see this future? Do you see this world? They were playing, they were dancing, they were talking, and this was the only world Hope ever knew. This world with hummingbirds and people sharing their stories and crying and embracing. But Hope had heard that life used to be different. The other day, Hope had made a mistake. They got angry and kicked over their neighbor's special lawn elf out of frustration, and it broke into pieces. Their neighbor wasn't happy because Hope's world wasn't without conflict. But here, the community knew what to do. The community brought Hope to a circle of elders, and their neighbors were there. And the circle full of elders told Hope a story of many generations before, hundreds of years ago. If someone kicked over a lawn elf, the elder said, they were taken to a big building covered with bars. People were kept alone, and their life and liberty were deprived. Hope had heard stories all their life because every week elders would share these stories. That's why I find it so beautiful that all of you mentioned that in the chat. This future is one where we share stories. They would tell stories about racism, this thing that people of a lighter skin tone used to justify imprisoning, killing, and owning the lives of people who were darker. They told stories of things called sheriffs who would arrest people for just walking down the street, who had formerly been enslaved and put a rope around their neck or sell them to industry, to coal, to agriculture. And Hope was shocked and amazed because in their day, this didn't exist. Now, Hope had heard other stories too, about the generations that had changed things. They heard stories about those who had argued against the system of buying and selling people, of the people who had voted out the sheriffs who had put people into places called jails. The elders told the story of 2022 in Lansing, Michigan, on Zoom, when bunches of people talked to other members of their community about transformation and the need to heal the relationships and systems that reinforced a human hierarchy. Hope knew all about the stories of the ancestors because storytelling was a part of that world in which they lived, both the horrors and the heroes. And they knew that in 2022, there was a small change. Fewer people dying, fewer people arrested. Because Lansing residents talked to Battle Creek residents, who talked to Detroit residents, and they had begun to change the conversation of what racial healing looks like. And so when Hope started to dance, it wasn't one dance, but theirs looked a little bit like this. So everyone, as you're able, you can turn on your cameras and join me. What did Hope's dance look like? I hope you can demonstrate. Give me a little, what did Hope's dance look like? All right, we're dancing. We're at the festival. We are with Hope in this future. Love to see it. The shimmies to the side, right? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Because when Hope started to do the dance, they saw their mom and their dad and their cousins, the biological and their maid family. And as they ate the wonderful food, they knew that they had all that they needed. The love they needed, the care and resources they needed. They knew that they would never go back to those earlier days and that their world was possible because of the bravery, perseverance, and the love of their ancestors. Us. Thank you, everybody.
What we'd like to do at this time, we'd like to thank all of those who participated today. And for those of y'all who participated specifically in the healing circles, can you just reach your hands out to the screen and show those who facilitated, our circle keepers, can you just show them some love like this right here? We want them to feel the energy, right? And we want to thank Angela and the whole team and all of our partners who participated in our main space. And we actually recorded it. Is that right, Sarah? So that we can make this available to those who are in the healing circles. There's a lot of work that is happening within our community. And there are 2 final actions. If you would like to get involved to help us reinforce the message to a few senators holding up action on voting rights. No celebration without legislation was the King family's motto this year. No celebration without legislation. And we know what's happening with voting rights and the rollback of that freedom and that fundamental right in a democratic society. So there is a link that is being placed in the comment section right now. We're going to ask you to click that, and that'll take you right to our Liberation Pack. And you'll be able to help us in many different ways. Also, we have a survey that we'd like for you to fill out as a result of your participation today. We're absolutely elated to have you. And as we spoke to the group that was in the main room, how do we align ourselves? How do we organize ourselves after we leave this space on tonight? The work begins. This is our launching pad for the rest of the year. And so where do you see alignment? How do we organize ourselves? And so again, I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining. It warms my heart, warms our team's heart. And again, if you would like to get involved in TRHT and be a part of future healing circles, everything you need is in that comment section, those links. And I would like to ask if Angela has any last words for us, or Sarah, my colleague.
Thank you, Mordecai. Really quickly, and I'm not going to turn my camera back on because I have completely relaxed. And just thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your love, for your energy, for just holding us down the way that you do. You're the mayor of the Lansing People's Assembly, and we just appreciate you so much. Just thank you. Thank you for supporting our community and organizing ourselves and in building loving systems of co-governance and building across systems. And I just love the way that you bring your faith. I don't know if everybody here knows that you're a pastor, that you're a pastor at Epicenter of Worship. And you are here with us in community. And, you know, I'll just speak to my faith, but that's what Jesus did. And there's a reason that we call you Mordecai. I'm so glad my camera's not on. And I just appreciate you, and I love you.
Love you too. I love our community. I love One Love Global, our family. There is a host of activity on the back end to make this happen tonight. And so I'd like to give a personal shout out to our whole team. And I don't even want to start calling names, but this tonight was absolutely, you could feel the weight of it and how important this work is. As we sign off, my father, he evidently heard Dr. King speak somewhere. I don't know where he heard Dr. King speak personally, but he remembered this tiny quote, and he taught it to me every single day. And it says, "Fleece of locks does not fortune nature's span. Though skin may differ, black and white dwells the same." Fleece of locks does not fortune nature's span. Though skin may differ, black and white the same. He taught me that every single day. Fleece of locks means black. It's Latin for plaits, for locks. that you cannot change how you come into this world. That is something that is predetermined. You didn't have any decision about how you come into this world. But what he said to me was that underneath it all, we're all the same. And that's what I grew up hearing. So thank you all and have a wonderful night. And we will see you in the upcoming weeks as we continue our work of helping our community heal. God bless you.